Good evening and welcome to the Daily News Roundup. I am Abigail Smythe. Among the stories in this evening's newscast, the growing tension between security companies and association representing security guards. Security guard charged alongside Rashawn Patterson in connection with the death of social media influencer offered bail. Headless body of man found in Eltham, Spanish Town. Minister of Legal and Constitutional Affairs says opposition has emboldened criminals. United States government increasing investment in Jamaica with millions committed to violence reduction. In business, Grace Foods and Services implements price increases on some of its goods. In the region, Barbados considering plans to make a wealthy conservative MP the first individual to pay reparations for his ancestors' pivotal role in slavery. And further overseas, 100 companies in the UK sign up for permanent 4-day working week for employees. And in sports, Senegal and the Netherlands ease into the last 16 of the 2022 World Cup with victories on Tuesday. Now for the news in detail. There are still delays in upgrading the employment status of security guards following a Supreme Court ruling in September. This has now led to growing tension between security companies and the association which represents security guards. The Jamaica Association for Private Security, JAPS, urged its members to call in sick on Monday, a move it says resulted in a disruption of activities at one university in the corporate area. JAPS President Teddy Lee Gray says the guards are maintaining that their issues must be urgently addressed. He adds that further action would be taken this week, including a march to Gordon House on Tuesday to hand-deliver a letter to the Prime Minister and Finance Minister and maybe the Labour Minister. Mr. Gray laments, however, that previous attempts to reach out to Labour Minister Carl Samuda have failed as the minister hasn't been responding. As such, he suggested the guards would better be served delivering the letters to Prime Minister Andrew Holness and Finance Minister Dr. Nigel Clark. Rowan Rose, the security guard charged alongside Rashawn Patterson in connection with the death of social media influencer Anika Townsend, was offered $500,000 bail when he appeared before the St. James Circuit Court on Monday. The 47-year-old, who is of a Hanover address, is charged with misprision of a felony, which is when someone knows a felony has been committed but fails to inform the authorities. The prosecution told the court that Rashawn Patterson had told the security guard that he killed Slickiana, but Rose's lawyer has called into question the level of his client's culpability after that conversation took place. In arguing his client's case for bail, attorney Martin Thomas told the court that Patterson unsuccessfully tried to enlist Rose's help in covering up the crime. He said Rose had nothing to do with the murder and now want nothing to do with Patterson, a man he once considered a friend. During Rose's bail application, his attorney Martin Thomas told presiding High Court Justice Andrea Thomas that the defendant was not a flight risk and would report to the police as often as instructed. Justice Thomas subsequently offered bail to Rose in the sum of $500,000 with 2 sureties and ordered him to report to the Lucy police station 3 times weekly. Rose will go on trial March 6 of next year. Anika Townsend's body was retrieved from the sea in Reading, St. James on the morning of Friday, October 21. A subsequent post-mortem examination of her body on November 5 concluded that she had been strangled. The accused, Patterson, is to have his bail hearing on December 15. A 34-year-old Mason has been charged after he reportedly raped a bar operator in Duns River Hills, St. Anne on Thursday, November 17. Charged with rape and grievous sexual assault is Hogarth Moncrief of Windsor Road, St. Anne. Reports are that about 10 p.m., the woman closed her establishment. Moncrief, who was allegedly there for hours, requested transport assistance from her. Whilst the car was in motion, Moncrief reportedly pulled up the handbrake and dragged the woman from the vehicle. He then proceeded to rape and sexually assault her. A report was made to the police and an investigation launched. Moncrief was subsequently arrested and charged following being pointed out in an identification parade. Moncrief's court date is not yet finalized. And the bribery trial against dancehall producer Shabdan has been postponed until April 17 next year. The trial was scheduled to start on Monday in the Kingston and St. Andrew Parish Court, but failed to get off the ground after the producer, whose given name is Linval Thompson Jr., was not brought to court. Thompson is accused of breaching the Corruption Prevention Act following his arrest last October. It is alleged that he attempted to bribe a police officer after a firearm was found in a vehicle he was driving in October last year. The corruption charge was laid following a ruling from the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions. The headless body of a man was found in Eltham, Spanish Town, St. Catherine, Monday morning. The body was wrapped in a tarpaulin. The discovery was made by residents who alerted the police. Scene of crime investigators combed the scene for evidence and the body was later removed to the morgue. As at November 24, the St. Catherine North Police Division recorded 130 murders, which is a 51.2% increase over the 86 homicides reported over the corresponding period in 2021. The division is under a state of public emergency, which will expire at midnight on Tuesday. The Minister of Legal and Constitutional Affairs, Marlene Malahou Ford, says the opposition People's National Party, PNP, has emboldened criminals to the point where the crime producers know their rights instead of their wrongs. The minister was speaking during a tour in the Kingston Eastern Police Division with Prime Minister Andrew Holness on Monday. The division is currently under a state of public emergency, which will expire Tuesday, following last week's vote against its extension by 8 opposition senators. Minister Malahou Ford argues that the government has been trying to get what she calls a common view with their opposition counterparts on matters which she says is supported by Jamaica's constitutional framework. She says the opposition's view on the country's state of affairs are outdated. The United States government will be increasing its investment in Jamaica with some $34 million committed to violence reduction, combating human trafficking, cybersecurity, energy security, and initiatives to boost the economy. Details were provided by Under-Secretary of State for Political Affairs, Ambassador Victoria Newland, at the U.S.-Jamaica Strategic Dialogue held recently at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade in downtown Kingston. Newland said that the State Department's Bureau of International Narcotics and Law Enforcement Affairs has committed to doubling its budget for Jamaica, providing $3.5 million in annual support to jointly tackle violent crime and homicide. It is expected to be in effect next year. The U.S. has also dedicated $3.5 million to strengthen Jamaica's cybersecurity capacity and position the country to be a leader in the region, while through the United States Agency for International Development, $20 million will be invested to boost the economy and drive local economic growth to ensure young Jamaicans have better opportunities. Newland said the Jamaica-U.S. partnership will also facilitate support for climate adaptation, strengthening the energy security and the development of clean energy projects. Senior advisor and strategist in the Ministry of Tourism, Delano Seavright, says a number of hotel expansion projects are set to be launched in 2023 and 2024, amounting to billions in investment. Seavright made the comment as the Tourism Ministry welcomed the groundbreaking of the new RCD Hotels Montego Bay Resort. The 451-room adult-only all-inclusive resort is part of several tourism projects taking place in Jamaica at the moment, with over 6,000 hotel rooms. Seabright says with tourism booming in Jamaica, there are not enough rooms to facilitate the demand. He says Jamaica is experiencing the largest boom ever in tourism and is encouraging Jamaicans to take advantage of the opportunities it's providing. As we approach the Yuletide season, the Jamaica Constabulary Force has heightened its security presence in and around commercial districts across the island and along public thoroughfares. The police are advising members of the public that they should adopt safe practices as they traverse the nation's streets to conduct business. Additionally, members of the public are urged to obey road signs and markings in order to reduce or eliminate road accidents and fatalities. The public is also being urged, when taking public transportation, especially taxis, to memorize the license plate number, color, and make of the vehicle and inform someone they trust about boarding a taxi. They should be wary of drivers who ask to divert from planned routes. Taxi drivers are also being warned to be alert and look out for criminals who pose as passengers, avoid carrying groups of men, and be wary of passengers who ask to divert. Motorists are being reminded not to drink and drive and have a designated driver in the event that excessive alcohol is consumed. They should also ensure that vehicles are properly secured at events. And finally, they should obey the road code when traveling. In business, Grace Foods and Services, the manufacturing and distribution arm of Grace Kennedy Limited, has implemented price increases on some of its goods. The adjustments on multiple products reflect price hikes of about 5%. Some of the affected products are Grace Cock Soup, Tasty Cheese, Tropical Rhythm, Grace Syrups, Grace Powdered and Canned Coconut Milk, mackerel, refined vegetable oil, tomato ketchup, instant chocolate, Vienna sausages and frankfurters, and kidney beans. Many local manufacturing and distribution companies have been struggling with raw material shortages, delays in shipments, congestions at the ports, along with inconsistent and uncertain delivery times, which led to higher storage costs. To avoid stockouts, companies have been holding more inventory at more cost to them, but inflation has been pushing input prices higher. In the region, the government of Barbados is considering plans to make a wealthy Conservative MP the first individual to pay reparations for his ancestors' pivotal role in slavery. MP for South Dorset, Richard Drax, recently traveled to Barbados for a private meeting with Prime Minister Mia Mottley. A report is before Mottley's cabinet laying out the next steps, which include legal action in the event that no agreement is reached with Drax. The Drax family pioneered the plantation system in the 17th century and played a major role in the development of sugar and slavery across the Caribbean and the U.S. The Drax family also owned a plantation in Jamaica, which they sold in the 19th century. And on the international scene, 100 companies in the United Kingdom have signed up for a permanent 4-day working week for all their employees with no pay cuts, a milestone in the campaign to fundamentally change Britain's approach to work. According to The Guardian, the 100 companies employ 2,600 staff, a tiny fraction of the UK's working population, but the 4-day week campaign group is hoping they will be the vanguard of a major shift. Proponents of the 4-day week say that the 5-day pattern is a hangover from an earlier economic age. They argue that a 4-day week would drive companies to improve their productivity, meaning they can create the same output using fewer hours. For some early adopters, the policy has also proven a useful way of attracting and retaining employees. In addition, the UK campaign is also coordinating the world's biggest pilot scheme for about 70 companies, which employ about 3,300 workers to adopt the 4-day week in a trial with researchers at the universities of Cambridge and Oxford, Boston College and think tank Autonomy. In September, 88% of those companies in a survey at the middle of the trial said the 4-day week was working well for their business at that stage of the trial. About 95% of the companies surveyed said productivity had either stayed the same or improved since the introduction. And in sports, Senegal reached the last 16 of the World Cup on Tuesday with a 2-1 victory over Ecuador, who are out of the tournament. Meanwhile, Netherlands also eased into the last 16 with a 2-0 victory over the hosts, Qatar. And that's it for your news roundup for today. I am Abigail Smythe. See you next time.